Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to Out of My Mouth. I'm Barbara Jean and this is my co-host, Marg Dupuis. We are so grateful that you're here with us today, and I'd like to begin with the land acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these lands, sacred lands that have been cared for generations by thousands of people, and we recognize that each and every one has a place here and a positive impact on the journey that we all walk. So we're grateful to meet on these sacred lands, and we thank the generations of people who came here before us. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech. Marg.
Thank you, Barbara. Now I have the opportunity of welcoming back Reverend Jenn Shepherd. As the spiritual leader of Unity in Edinboro, podcast host, and co-founder of Bolts of Love, Jenn creates spaces for voices and hearts to be heard, guiding individuals to become their best selves. I just love that line. Jenn's passions include integrative spirituality, new thought, spiritualism, spiritual self-empowerment. With over a decade of experience teaching 7th and 8th grade history and science, Jenn has transferred those skills to the teaching of healing and mediumship. I'm intrigued, Jenn. Welcome.
Thank you. I need to copy and paste your bio. I think I like that.
I did some searching.
So tell us a little bit about mediumship and healing.
Oh, well, that's where would you like to begin? When we start with definitions,
That's a good idea. Yeah,
because I don't know that all of us use the same definitions, even though they're the same words. So mediumship is a practice using a faculty of mind that can move conscious awareness into the space of spirit, oneness, all that is. Pick your verbiage, the force be with you. Over. So in a quote medium, it is recognized that there is a part of brain function that is built for that disassociative property to move into awareness. Because all mediumship is a form of disassociating from this space into a broader awareness of the non-physical. So healing is mediumship, and mediumship is healing, in that no matter what modality of mediumship, at least from the tradition that I am from, it is based in the idea that there is healing happening from the perspective of non-physical, healing happening in the non-physical and the physical, healing happening in ways that we may not understand, but maybe we can recognize it happening as we move along. And there are some people that have the talent base within their mediumship specifically for healing. So they would, it's really similar to sitting in the silence for healing, if I use a unity terminology. And that's why I said definitions are really important, because sometimes I think we get all tripped up, and some of us are really doing the same things, but in just different vocabulary. So when you sit in that space, in the awareness of allowing for healing without any kind of desired outcome. So the idea is to allow that to flow. So the saying is from spirit, through spirit, to spirit, that flow of energy and healing. And then again, manifesting people, situations, the world, because of that intention to be in that space.
Hey, I just want to step back a bit. Can you tell me what inspired you to be in this modality? What intrigued you? What stirred the pot for you to go down this road?
To go down. Okay, so again, I need to march back to vocabulary using again, because I think in retrospect, I've been on this road, for a very, very long time. So I was brought up Roman Catholic, very dogmatic type tradition, and yet there were instances of awareness, but I had no vocabulary for that. And then get a little older, and in that tradition, at least in my geographic location, there were pockets of prayer groups and houses, and they would meet for several weeks at a time. And my little prayer group started to do things like asking me to write the prayer for somebody that was hurting. It's basically offering a form of healing. So there was a recognition from the people around me that there was something that I could tap into for words, for comfort, for, and I would write these little poem prayers when asked. And also, and then move even further down my I'm jumping many years in between here, but I started taking Qigong classes, right? And there is a lot of energy component and body awareness, and how you interact with both yourself, the energies around you, and then that can, if you have the faculty for it, move into a broader awareness. Well, I was moving into the broader awareness with a teacher that didn't understand where I was at. Does that make sense? So I was doing something or experiencing something that was outside of the box of the class I was in. No fault of the teacher. It's just, so, so I was searching. So I would read, I went through things like, I still do the Qigong. I found Master Robert Peng, who was really able to start putting some of those pieces together. Now, his vocabulary isn't that of mediumship, but he recognizes connecting to what he calls Great Spirit for the Qigong healing, and because his Qigong is all based around healing. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Peng, but in his life story, he had a choice really early on to do like a martial arts version of Qigong or a healing version of Qigong, and he chose the healing version, and that's what he cultivated, and that's what he teaches. his book, by the way, that has that story is called The Master Key, if anybody's interested. And so that was good for me in terms of being more comfortable with what was going on. Somebody had some awareness that my awareness was out here and into the non-physical and not just with the people around us. And then 2000, right around Christmas 2010, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And since I had already started this energy qigong healing thing, I kind of went into overdrive, and we went almost, well, in those situations you panic and you do all the things. And there was a small spiritualist community near me that I knew they practice spiritual healing. And we went to the healing temple, and then I started learning more from that tradition, and that tradition uses the verbiage of mediumship, the verbiage of spiritual healing and mediumistic healing. And then it kind of snowballed from there. So I started taking classes. I took myself to New Jersey. I went on retreats to try to understand. Yep, that's the book. And I have very beautiful, beautiful spiritualist community that I work with now out of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. It's the Open Door Spiritualist Sanctuary. And I'm glad I found them really early on in my recognition of this kind of vocabulary, because they are 100% based in healing and understanding that mediumship is a pathway to self-connection and exploration and bringing out one's own talents into the world through that connection. Yes, there's a I talk to the dead people component, but it's tiny. It's tiny compared to what, to know that that's part of it, and the practice to understand how you connect. Yes, that's them. To understand how you connect can be cultivated through that practice, right? But that's not the all of it by any means.
How does this fit with the ministry?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? It broke up for me.
Yeah, do you want to move your mic a little bit?
Are you having trouble hearing me?
No, the mic is just making some noise. But yeah, no, I was saying, how do you bring together, your spiritualist teaching with the unity teaching? How have you worked that out?
I don't have any problem with it at all. My community, there is a spiritualist community near me called Lilydale. It's about an hour and 20-minute drive. And it's the oldest, they call camp, spiritualist camp in the United States. So there's a lot of history there. And the people in my community were very familiar with that. In fact, if you rewind the clock a little bit, there's a history of a spiritualist minister that is a unity teacher that helped build the community that I'm a spiritual leader of now. So this community doesn't have any problem blending, because there's a huge recognition that, again, sometimes it's down to the vocabulary. We're really on the same path of discovery. We're on the same path of helping each other build our awareness and our talents. We're on the same discovery of how do we help each other heal and bring that out in the community, right? What I have been able to do is add in extra programs that are mediumistic specific, like on a Wednesday night, or I know we have Easter coming up, and our Easter celebration for the last 7 years has been very different. So we have a healing. This year we're having a healing sound celebration at the beginning, and then we do what's called a flower message service. So when people come in, they take a flower, a live flower, and they put their initials on it. And then myself and a couple others that are practiced in intuitive reflection and mediumship take that flower and offer a message, a recognition of how the world and how the universe is working in that moment with that. And then the person raises their hand, and it's beautiful because there's this huge recognition of just how oneness there is in that moment, which for me is what Easter is. It's that cultivation of knowing that togetherness and that aliveness and that next step forward. So that's what we do on Easter. We do this flower message service in lieu of what, the quote traditional.
Do you do anything Friday or no?
My community is not large enough to sustain a Friday.
A Friday service.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how you would handle that, because that's a different type of service as well.
Well, actually, a few years back, there's instead of a regular service, there was, oh goodness, sorry, I didn't. There's a series of meditations for the stations that was cultivated by, and I've just lost his name. It's actually quite beautiful. And I know that you can get that through Unity, because I think that's where we cultivated it from to begin with, the gentleman that, and if I come up with it by the end, but it was never in this community, it was never like a service anyway. It was come in and it was a meditation stations based on, on that work.
Oh, nice.
You spoke about, I think you said about different forms of healing. Do you want to expand on that?
Okay, so we'll call them modalities. There's a lot of different aspects or the ways that people take on the word healing, right? So, I mean, if you just look that up, you'll find things like there's a Qigong healing and a Reiki healing and a pranic healing and a spiritual healing and a hands-on healing you get the idea. There's also the recognition that there's, and I'll use my vocabulary for a moment, a spiritual / mediumistic healing, a mediumistic healer, and a healer that uses the energy of here and now, right? So, and neither one is good or bad. It's just the approach. For me, though, the idea of from spirit through spirit to spirit allows for a lot more than the just from me to you. Right? The energy is wider, it's greater, it uses the whole oneness, right? There's no, I would really like this to happen for them because the medium is out of the way of that, or that's the practice to not have a judgment on how that works. So I know because I did the gamut of all of them. I am a certified Qigong healer, I'm a certified Reiki healer, certified spiritual healer. I mean, in my search, I did all the things. And yet, for me, it comes back to, can I be in that awareness enough to know that it's working and that it's happening and in whatever way it needs to? So, and I think for Unity, the verbiage of the affirmation, and because we do a lot of, in Unity, it's a lot of verbalization for the healing. Like we have the written healing prayers. I am part of the Unity prayer ministry, third shift every night. I'm on the phones. Hello, Silent Unity. And when they call the affirmative verbiage that is used is is how they get into that moment, how unity gets into that moment of healing. And it depends, honestly, on the person in that moment with those words, right? On what's happening. Because the person that's offering the words, if the words, feel necessary in the moment, is that allowing the shift into the flow of healing, right? Is it that shift for the person that's offering the words? Is there a shift for the person that's hearing the words? It's the words are really the entry point to the healing, not the healing itself. It allows space for that. But I do like that Unity uses the affirmative phrases and not, oh, and now we know that God's going to lift your headache. I mean, but we are in the space of healing, and we know that healing is here. But it goes a little bit further. The mediumistic healing for me goes further than that, because then it's not just I need to repeat my affirmation and like a magic bullet and have it happen, but it's the awareness of the allness of everything that you're a part of, moving you to the wholest that you can be in the moment, right? And in the alignment that you can be in your own talents, your own nature, your own being. Because healing, and here's the tricky part, healing isn't a cure. Healing is moving into alignment with the oneness of yourself, and then with the all that is, and whatever form that takes.
The biggest confusion people get is they think healing means cure.
Yeah, and that's sometimes the hardest. It really is.
For sure. So you explained that well. If you were to do a session with one of us, how would that look?
For healing?
Yeah.
Goodness. We would sit and kind of stare at each other, honestly. I mean, there is a version of a hands-on where you would have your shoulders touched. And I know that now if we are in a spiritualist gathering, a Sunday moment, there is a spot at the beginning for it's the healing. So, and there are healing mediums that are there, that have trained, that have cultivated, and you are able to go and sit with one of them, and they will touch your shoulders for 3 minutes, right? While they shift themselves into that awareness for you, and that you allow that, be with that, and then you move back to your seat. So because that's the other part. I know if you like go to a healer, you expect to have like a 30-minute treatment, right? And yet we know that that's for us, our humanity. We like that. We like to be touched. We like to know something's happening for us. We like, even as the healer and the client, to feel things and to know things and then go, what did that mean for you? And yet that's all the humans. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's the human aspect of it. The oneness aspect of it is, do you really need a half hour to know God's working? Once the intention is out there and you have done the work of the shift, honey, it's there. There's the spiritualist healer. He's since passed, but he was considered one of the best of the best, and his name is Harry Edwards. And he would literally fill stadiums when people would come up, and the people he would train, and they'd come up and they'd sit with them and they'd move on. And in his books, he would talk about this 4 to 6 minute moment, right, where you could, and once you practice, you can really feel that, or at least or know that you're there, it's worked. Yep. You're there, it's worked. It's working, because Harry Edwards, and we know this in Unity, you get hundreds and hundreds and sometimes thousands of requests every day in some fashion for prayer, for healing. And really any request for a prayer is healing. I mean, if we think about it that way, if somebody's asking for something, there's healing that's taking place. So, and all of those get put in the chapel, right? At Unity Village, all of those get, and and then they get more and more and more, and they rotate them out every 30 days, right? So if your name, your intention is there for 30 days. Well, I often wonder how much of that really is for us as humans to think that we're getting prayed with, healing sense, remembered for 30 whole days. Because really you take all of that, and even if it was placed once a day in there, and people were there in communion and sat for 10 minutes with that, we know it's taken care of. Whatever it is that's needed in that moment is taken care of, right? Now, yeah, there are people, even saying that, there's people that I know I have on a list, and I will sit for 10 minutes a day or whatever with my whole list. But if it's the knowing that you are part of that already, and if the intention is true, and you're connected, there we go.
Well, we're coming up to our halfway point, so we're going to take a little commercial break. You're watching Out of My Mouth with our wonderful guest, Reverend Jenn Shepherd, and we will be back in just a minute. You're watching the New Thought Media Network. Don't go away. More to come.
Welcome to Science of Mind Archives, your gateway to spiritual wisdom. Join us for our grand opening gala. Experience a weekend of inspiration. Enjoy a ribbon-cutting ceremony, a gala dinner and workshops, plus a labyrinth walk and town hall. Connect with a community of seekers. Explore spiritual teachings and resources. Find your path to personal growth. Join us from April 24th to 27th. Lodging options are still available. Visit our website www.scienceofmindarchives.com for more details. Please RSVP by March 15th. Featuring Reverend Jesse Jennings, musical inspirations with Karen Drucker, and the spirit of Ernest Holmes. Come celebrate our new home at Unity Village, Lee's Summit, Missouri, and please visit www.scienceofmindarchives.com.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome back to Out of My Mouth here on the New Thought Media Network and our incredible guest, Reverend Jenn Shepherd. And we're talking about mediumship and healing.
Did I get it right when you said about healing? One of the things you said, the wholeness of you in the moment, or the moment of who you are, the wholeness of who you are in the moment. That really resonated with me. I could grasp that. I could believe that. I could, yeah. Have I got that right? Is that what you, that's what you said? And I have a question. How do you charge your battery? Do you have, a place you go and you go, this is where I do my reset? Or
So the Inner Quest community I told you about is one way. We meet. There's an opportunity to meet 3 times a week on Zoom. It's an international community, and we do what's called sitting in the presence together as a community, which again is really similar to sitting in the silence, especially when you listen to Eric Butterworth talk about the silence. It's real close to that. It's a shifting of your awareness and sitting in that presence and just being and being with community. So that's that's a huge thing for me, is to be a part of that community. So I have shared vocabulary, and I have enrichment and all of that. Sometimes the reset is a shower. Honestly, it's like just, something different on the body to shift gears, depending on what's going on through the day. I read a lot, and I'm a science fiction junkie. So, I mean, to honor my craziness is a reset and a fill up. Sometimes I think we forget the fill ups. We're human, so they're allowed to be human fill ups. They don't always have to be oming on the cushion.
I'm currently reading a book called The Sacred Continuum, and it's about the space between prayers. And what I love about this book is she's talking about that really our prayerful state really should last always. But she talks about we'll do affirmations for, 10, 15 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever. And then whatever we've been affirming, as soon as we stop, we go, oh man, like if we're affirming, I'm rich, the minute we stop, we go, oh, I don't have enough money to do this. I don't have enough money. And we undo all of those affirmations that we did. And so, she's talking about the importance of sort of maintaining that conscious state where I'm present and I bring myself back to that presence over and over again in a day, because we do forget sometimes that we are part of something bigger, that there's something moving through us.
The micro check-ins, I think, the micro check-ins are ridiculously important. They move everything. I think I'll just speak for myself. The micro check-ins are so necessary, much more than I got to be with whatever for an hour.
I agree.
10 to 15 minutes, or sometimes it's less than that. It's just, oh, isn't that neat? That's a really cool color of sky. And then, and to move on, just to be aware and to be grateful for that. And then, continue.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And your children.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Barbara, I wasn't sure. Look, there's that story word, right? My intention was not to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just talk on saying the word sorry. So that's what I just caught myself doing. Barbara, go ahead. I will speak later.
No, you go. I've forgotten what I was going to ask.
I was
Thinking about story
where my
comment.
head went was, Jen, your children, how do they receive what you do? Do they express a feeling? I don't like it, or I love
Well,
it, or
my teenagers don't know me any different. So, if I need to, they know that sometimes, because I do a lot of, well, we all do a lot on Zoom now. So if somebody calls for a session or a reading, I'm like, I need to, and that's one of the reasons for the headset, so that, because we live in a very small house, so we share. But with the headset, if they have to like walk past me, it's not a big deal. So, it's that's more important to communicate with them than your mom's going to do a session with somebody who's grieving right now that would really like to connect with somebody. It doesn't faze them. My older ones, when I first started being more public and more, really, they traveled with me to a couple places. They're 33 and 30, so they have their own thing going on. But there's never been oh, what the heck is that? Or, there's never been that. There's a huge, there's a huge, the only thing my oldest said once, and this was my father passed about 3 years ago now. And, that was when everybody's wearing the masks and everything at the, when they come in. And my oldest said, I can tell who your people are. Come in the door. So I guess we have a vibe. But other than that, I mean, that's the tease, is like, we can tell your people have a vibe. I'm like, that's okay. I don't mind that.
That's wild. So, how do you use what it is that you do in the face of what's happening globally, with wars and all kinds of domination and just terrible ways of treating, women, indigenous people, people of color? It's like there's a lot going on. How does your work fit in with that more global perspective, or does it?
Well, I think everything fits in the global perspective in some fashion, but in the recognition that we all have talents that can be expressed through our mediumship, expressed through our spirit, expressed through our soul. Again, pick your word there. But in the cultivation of that and the cultivation of our own healing, so that that can be expressed in its fullest, right, without reservation, that is what shifts the world, right? So when we start with us and what we can do, that gives other people permission to do the same. And it's knowing that maybe I don't have the ability to go across the world and handle something that I am really irritated about, right? But I can first offer my presence for that peace. Yeah. And in the expression of spirit through me in whatever fashion that is, through my talents, then somebody else does that and somebody else does that. So it's allowing for community around you that affects the wider community, right? And it's a slow and ridiculously slow human process. Mm-hmm. But that's the way we've carried out through our entire world. I mean, if it's tiny little things that get us there. And and sometimes sometimes that's a one-on-one conversation. Sometimes that's helping somebody through a grief moment, and because when in their alignment and finding purpose through and with the grief, because grief is always there. I mean, it's with all of us all the time in some fashion, right? That's something that we work through as a human. But as you work through it and you find, sometimes that's where people find their talents and their quote purpose to move forward. And then they change their little community because they're willing to move with that instead of sink into it. So it's pushing back the fear of our own humanity and to move forward. I don't know if that answers your question, but because if
You
we
know what?
know,
Just
I'm sorry. Oh, there, I did it.
there, I know. I'll have to pass this on to the person that brought the talk to us today. When you were talking about these little things that we do and how important they are to make a change in the world, is similar to what I heard you say about how you recharge yourself. You go to the center. I'm sorry, I forget the name, whatever. And then also you take a moment and look at the sky and how beautiful it is. And so again, these little micro parts of how we live our life within self or
Did she freeze up?
She froze.
oh no.
And that's right, you're back now. Yeah. So yeah, because I mean, if we recognize that everything is of God, everything is of spirit, everything is oneness, right? There is good there. There's good from us. There's good coming to us. There's good all around us. It looks like crap because there is an awareness gap with people, right? So the people that are able to be in awareness, the people that are the mediums, the people that are the healers, in cultivating themselves to the fullest, they allow space for somebody that doesn't have the innate faculty for awareness to have space for that, right? And to move forward and cultivate that. In Ken Wilber's work, he talks about this waking up moment, but he also his newest book, and the title just escaped me, but it's the one that was just published in the last 12 months. He's broken that down even further to saying that some people innately wake up, like they have this moment of realization inside themselves, and then they do something with that. They have a choice to do something with that. And then there's people that are working towards that. They haven't had this wake up moment, but they're around people that give them opportunities to work with that information. Like they know that there's something more, even if they haven't experienced in anything themselves, to take that to the next level for themselves. So that's where our communities, our sacred spaces, our community spaces, and the people that are the mediums, are the healers, are the people in awareness, move that forward. Because when I choose to be that and to the fullest, that energy, that awareness seeps out, right? Mm-hmm. And then other people will join in because they're like, oh, that's a cool thing you're doing. And they do all the steps, they do the volunteering, they do the helping, they learn more about themselves, and slowly they can reach that wake up moment through the work. So in Ken Wilber's theory, there's this spark of wake up, but there could also be this, I'm working with it, maybe not like super consciously. Maybe I'm going to work for my wake up moment, but I'm in, I'm in a space with people that allow that, as there's a safety so that can happen. And it can be anything. So we're in our third season of having a pay what you can food stand. And we work with farmers in the community, and we bring the produce, and it's turned into a thing. And we just had a startup meeting for this coming up season, and we had brand new faces come in. brand new excited faces because they've seen what's happened the last couple of summers. They want to be a part of it. They want to grow a couple tomato plants and bring in tomatoes. They want to be one of the ones that be at the table and greet people and have a conversation, and that's what I mean by, if you just be with your talent in that way and it shines because you've done your work, then other people join in and then they have a chance to shine too. And that's oh, there you go. That's how we change the world. Yeah. It's interesting to me that we haven't talked about all the dead people. So I kudos to you for that, because that's usually where we get stuck and I never get to say all this other fun things.
So speaking
Do
of
you
dead,
do you want to talk about dead people?
There is one thing I thought about I'd like to say, because I've seen some things lately, because I can see the fear of the vocabulary being stripped back in the New Thought community, right? The vocabulary itself is not so frightening anymore. But I also can see that in that connection of awareness, I think it's good to remember that our human bodies are the translators for all of that. So even though we hear something or feel something or know something, or however that is, either in a meditation moment or an awareness moment, or we're like, oh, I'm just so aware, and I hear it in, I don't know, I hear it in grandpa's voice, or I hear it in what I think is an angel's voice, or whatever it is for us. That awareness is being translated through our humanity. So our biases, our healing, our awareness, the TV shows we've watched, the things we've read, the people we talk to, our culture, our language, all of that. So I feel like if there's something I would love to wrap the New Thought community in terms of mediumship, is that awareness that we are the translators, right? That we, in whatever state of healing and awareness that we are in at the time, is how we will translate that information, right? So I'll give an example.
Thank you.
I'll give a couple examples. One is something that I saw early on that had to be explained to me by one of my teachers. He has since passed. His name is John White. He's an amazing medium. And he would hold these circles Sunday night at Lilydale, and 50, some 60, 70 people would show up. And he would walk them through a meditation where they could have an experience, right? So everybody together in that space. And then he would say, and I would help him with these circles, and then he would split people up so they could share their experience, because we all like to do that. We've had this amazing experience in meditation. I need to tell somebody. And you listen around the room, and the lady that he paired me with to listen to, they're like, oh, the angel Michael came to me and told me all this stuff. And the angel Michael's looking over my son, and I'm going to be okay. And this other person is like, the fairy with the gnomes came, and I heard that, maybe I need to, I don't know, drink electrolytes. I don't know, I'm making stuff up, just whatever their experience was.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a light. Oh, there was a bunny, all these things. And I never, in all of the guided meditations or whatever, and I finally said to him, I said, I think I'm broken, because I've been doing this for years. All these people are talking about all this stuff, and I got a nothing. And he goes, because you don't need it. And I said, back that card up and let me know what's happening. And there, and then this has been backed up by brain science and all the research and stuff the Inner Quest Foundation's doing in Victoria. But our senses and our sensibility and what we are willing to take on are all at play. So we may feel in that moment of meditation, being very wrapped up and protected and safe. Well, for somebody that hasn't felt that, or doesn't know what to do with that, or their body doesn't know, how to say you've created your own safety, turns that into the Archangel Michael, the protector, is with you, and right. So we have created those images for ourselves in order to explain this great unknown that we can't see while we're human, right? That there's this separation with our humanity, and yet we're not separate all at the same time, right? But our humanity at this moment is the translator. So I have a friend, Navin, who is a Hindi, and I've been blessed enough to be able to go with him to temple sometime. And the very first time I went with him to temple, I was like, I don't want to do anything wrong. He's like, you just go around to, and they're called deities. They're in statue form, the deities, and just feel where you feel like you want to know more. He said, because they're not really, quote, deities. They're the way we feel the energy and what we're going to work on with ourselves. And that's the same thing as with our archangels and people that think they're hearing Jesus and all the things. Because what's really happening, at least from my perspective, is we are connected all the time, right? We are both separate and one. In that connection point, when we are in that awareness, our own connection to the all that is fires, and we understand, right? We know, our intuition, our clarity, our all the things that unity says that we have, right? The 12, the will and the powers. Yeah, thank you. All of those things, we have it all, right? We are the translators. And are we in a space of our own healing to say, I am God in this moment, understanding God on the planet as me? Am I willing to say, I am spirit so much that I am translating the part of myself that is in the non-physical in this moment for this space, for what I need in my humanity, and not label that as a deity or an angel or a guide or Jesus? Are we enough in our healing to do that?
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of people would say, not yet.
Yeah. And I know for me, I did have a small, and this has come full. This is neat that we're having this conversation, because it's kind of come full circle for me just in the last few months. But when my husband passed, just a little while after that, I swore up and down that I heard him say that I needed to be really present and maybe protective of my children and my space for and I had a number 12 around that. So I thought, well, maybe that's when the kids are 12. Maybe that's, so I followed through with that feeling though, right?
Yeah.
But what I came to learn the more I worked on me and worked through that grief was that, and I'm not saying he's not there, because as a medium, I know they're there and I know we can reach them and have that interaction. But in that moment, since I heard it in his voice, I needed, and if I'm really honest with myself, I needed his input at that time in a really big way. And I reached out for input, right? Now, at this point, he's part of the oneness in a way that we're not, right? So, yes, he's in the mix. But did it really have to be in his voice for me to move forward on that advice, right? Because honestly, if he was here and we were having that conversation, we probably would have had a back and forth about it, right? And now all of a sudden that he's dead, I want to attribute all this wiseness for him, So, but that took me years, so I know it's a starting place for people, but I think if we can, because in Ken, Wilbur, when he writes, he talks about if people know what they aren't quite at to yet, but they have heard it, it's easier for them to grasp when it's happening, and embody that possibility than having to rearrange it later.
Exactly. Well, believe it or not, we're down to our last 4.5 minutes.
Oh, geez.
Time flies. So we like to end the show by asking, what do you think you'd like to leave people with today? What's the most important point that they should get from today's conversation?
I think that last one was probably the biggest one, with the you are that powerful, and you are that worthy, and you have the ability to be that healed, to translate the world in a clearer fashion. It's never going to be exact because we're human.
Yeah.
But to not attribute it to an other, because you are the other.
You're it.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. And Mark, what about you? You have a final comment for today?
I'm what's the word? Gobsmacked. I just have so many things to process, and I'll repeat it again. The wholeness of you in the moment is a phrase that I will, and a feeling that I'll take in with me, and I can relate to it. So thank you for those words.
Oh, beautiful.
And Barbara.
I would say, it was mentioned many times through the show, the oneness. We are one. There is only one thing going on. We're all some part of that. And no matter how hard we try, we can never be separate from it. So we may as well just accept that we're in this together and learn how to love each other and be with each other. Because I think if we got that, we would stop fighting so much. We wouldn't resist each other as much as we do. So I think really landing that idea that number one, we're perfect, whole, and complete as we were created. That doesn't mean physically we're not making mistakes, but at a soul level, we've got it all together. Mm-hmm. I think there's a journey that we're on that's really powerful and positive and exciting if we want to just remember our oneness. That takes away the drama, I think. If we could live there, it would take away the drama. But I think we like the drama a little bit, don't we? Think of all those actors and actresses that have earned millions because we want to see drama.
We like the drama.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if there's a starship involved.
Okay, Jen, go first.
I'm sorry?
You were starting to say something. You and Mark started talking.
Oh, I made a joke. I said, especially if there's a starship involved, then I'm all in the drama.
Yes. And I was just saying something has to stir up the pot, right?
Yeah.
To get the whatever firing and to know where we want to be.
Exactly.
Or where we are.
And it can't always be you that stirs the pot. So
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. I know you like to stir the pot. Well, thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, Mark. This, as always, has been a real treat. And as we come to the end of our show, I just want to say to everybody who watches, please like, share, subscribe. And if you'd like to make a donation to the New Thought Media Network, you can do that as well at ntmedia.org. You've been watching Out of My Mouth on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Barbara Jean, and good day. Have a wonderful one, and enjoy this Easter time, whatever that means for you. Bye for now.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.